Today we're going to be going over some super strong performing blue fragrances that I think every guy should add to their collection. What's a blue fragrance? It's just a fragrance with a ton of ambroxan that's fresh. It kind of might remind you of Sauvage or Dylan Blue or Bleu de Chanel. That's just the bare minimum way to explain it. And you probably hear the topic of blue fragrances brought up all the time, and there's a reason why there's such a demand and a following for it. That's because they provide results. Most people are buying a cologne to get compliments and to smell good to people around them. Pretty much any and every blue fragrance will achieve that for you, whereas some different styles might be a little bit more hit or miss. So with that being said, and I brought up Sauvage, Dylan Blue, Bleu de Chanel, none of those are in here. So we're just kind of taking a bit of a different approach and maybe bringing to the surface some lesser thought about blue scents that still work really well. Now the first one is from a cologne brand. It's Offen 9 AM Dive. This is never going to have the mainstream reach as any of the other big guys I just talked about because it is Offen. Nothing against Offen, nothing against any cologne brand. I am an advocate for clones and cologne brands, but we can all agree that they're just never really going to achieve the reach of your usual designer brands because those are in department stores, retail stores, all over the place. You can physically see them in person. Less likely the case with something like this. So that gives you the advantage of having something that's going to be lesser worn. This one's got mint, apple, incense, and black currant, along with ambroxan as well, or an ambergris or amber wood, whatever you want to call it, but it's in there. And like I said, from a cologne brand. Does that mean that this is a clone? Kind of. I've described this one as being like a catch-all. You know, it has a little bit of Bleu de Chanel vibes, has a little bit of a Dylan Blue smell, has a little bit of a kind of Sauvage smell. I think I've even seen people compare this to like Invictus Aqua, which is lesser, but I guess you could throw that in the mix as well somehow. People have kind of said maybe a little bit of an Elysium smell. I could see that too, a tiny bit. It's a whole bunch of stuff mixed into one. If you were to go out and buy each and every one of those individual scents there, you would be spending hundreds of dollars. This is about 40. So you could kind of get a mixture of all of those for, you know, less than 50 bucks. It's one way to go about it. Definitely has great performance and a decent quality scent for the price as well. And again, something that most guys aren't going to be wearing and have probably never heard of. And we're kind of following that trend and transitioning over into a designer scent. We have Ferragamo Aqua Essenziale Blue. So you're getting some lavender in here, you're getting cypriol, tonka bean, and a ton of ambroxan. It's going to be one of the more affordable ones in this video, and also one of the more affordable fragrances done by Alberto Marias, which is awesome. He did this, he did the original Aqua Essenziale, and he also did Aqua Essenziale Colonia. All three of which are great, but this one is going to be the most blue smelling of them. So kind of going to be their answer to a blue scent, just on the more affordable end of things. But it also kind of has its own twist as well. It's not like it's tackling anything in particular. It's just like borrowing inspiration from a few of these other very popular scents and then putting their own twist on it. Main difference with this one is it's just more aromatic. It's a little bit more soapy and clean, rather than being like super peppery and having that type of delivery like a Sauvage. It doesn't really have the incense smokiness like a Bleu de Chanel. It doesn't have as much of the sweetness as in like Dylan Blue, although this would probably be most comparable to Dylan Blue, just with their own twist. I think you're looking at $30 to $40 for this one as well, so very reasonable. It's one that you can get on discounters easily that I recommend checking out. By the way, I will link all of these down below to discounters as well to make it easy for you to get these at the prices I'm talking about. Okay, going over to YSL. This one's going to be a little bit more expensive. We're going from around $40 up to about $80. So we're doubling the price. Are we getting double the quality and you know, double the return on our investment? That's going to be up for you to decide. Personally, I think it's a pretty strong chance that yes, you are. It's L'Homme Le Parfum by Yves Saint Laurent. The way I've described this one is it's kind of like the OG L'Homme, which is a very gentlemanly smelling ginger, woody apple scent, mixes with a modernized, modern day Eau de Parfum blue style. So you're kind of getting the best of both worlds. Something a little bit more mature and classic with something modern and new. And that's what I love about it. If Eau de Parfum is too sweet, it's too blue, it's too young smelling, this is a really nice hybrid that just gives you some of that more kind of masculine traditional smell mixed in there, which is really nice. And like I said, about $80, so it comes in at a bit more of a lower price than Eau de Parfum, and really up against a lot of the other big blues, Sauvage, Dylan Blue, and things like that. It's a little bit more affordable as well, although not as cheap as something like Dylan Blue and a few of these others. So it's in a really good spot where it's not the most expensive, but it's not the least expensive either. If you want a little bit more of a premium option, this is a good one to go for. You really can't get something that smells like this without getting this, or without layering Eau de Parfum and YSL L'Homme if you happen to have both of them already. And that'll get you almost there, but still not going to be the same as actually grabbing this one. I did a pretty drastic kind of change on this one where when I first got it in, I thought it was just okay and wasn't super thrilled about it. But the more I've worn it, as time has gone on, I've grown to really love this one. So I definitely recommend checking it out. And if you're not into it right away, give it some time, keep going back to it. After a couple years, you might really be enjoying it. I can really appreciate this one a lot now. Next up, we have Polo Deep Blue Parfum. This one has mango, which is kind of unique, ambroxan, and sea notes or aquatic notes or whatever. Some citrus as well. So it's that fruity, semi-sweet mango is what kind of separates this from all of the others. Kind of a peppery note as well, and the ambroxan is very aggressive here. It's potent, so you know that's kind of the name of the game, strong ambroxan, or at least at the forefront. But again, in this one, it's powerful. It's almost a little bit stringent at times because it really hits hard. I like that about this one. You know, it kind of has a bit more of a head-turning aspect to it. It's a little bit more punchy and in your face, which is kind of different compared to what we've been covering so far. The first three here are relatively smooth and easygoing. And really, for the most part, the rest of the list is relatively mild as far as the presentation of these and how they present themselves in terms of scent. Pretty smooth and just kind of low-key. This one just does have a little bit more of a pop behind it. This is another one that is, I don't know, $45 to maybe $50. It's pretty affordable, and price has gone down on this considerably compared to when it first came out. True parfum concentration. You get a strong performer and a bit of a different approach on this DNA. Next up, we have Dolce Gabbana Light Blue Eau Intense. Kind of an OG, right? Because it started off with the original, and then a few years after we got this, which is an Eau de Parfum. I believe is what it's an Eau de Parfum. Kind of figured it would be, but this is a drastic improvement over the original. It's got a bunch of amberwood, sea notes, a nice grapefruit accord in here. Just really kind of beachy, oceanic, kind of smells like it reminds you of vacation if you were going to be wearing something on it, going to the beach or something like that, spending time by the water. This just has that kind of relaxing sensation to it. But it also works great for everyday wear too. Even if you're going to work or school or whatever, going to the grocery store, you're not really going to smell out of place. It just has a clean smell. A little bit of a salty nature to it. Out of all of these here, it's going to be the most kind of salty and aquatic smelling. Like it really does have a pretty realistic oceanic smell to it from that sea salt. But still, plenty of ambroxan or amberwood to back it up and to kind of toss it into that blue fragrance category. Yeah, maybe this one's on the edge a little bit more compared to some of the others, but it's a pretty potent blue scent as far as the ambroxan delivery, so I felt as though it would have a good placement in here. Like I said, they just went downhill after this. You know, they had just a whole bunch. A lot of the limited edition, like Discover Volcano, Swimming in Lapiri, and a few of those, just never got popular. They discontinued those, or they were limited edition to begin with. Italian Zest, Love is Love, and a few more that I'm missing. None of them were really all that good. And finally, they revived the line with Forever and Italian Love. And who knows what's going to happen then. But I mean, they really did peak with this one. And then it just went downhill for a while. But you could still get this one all over the place online for, I don't know, $60 or maybe a bit less. It's always been a little bit more pricey, but sometimes testers pop up. When these bottles are full, they look beautiful. Just imagine that color all the way up. It really, really looks nice. Nice frosted glass, great presentation. It's a true classic of a scent you should definitely check out. Okay, I brought up Y Eau de Parfum earlier. I'm going to take it one step further. I think this is better than Y Eau de Parfum. Going on record and saying it right now, and I've been kind of hinting at that here lately. For a while, I wasn't even sure if that was going to be the case, but I've been spending so much more time with this, been wearing it. Every time I come down here, even if I'm not spraying this one on, I'm either pulling the cap and I'm smelling it, or I'm just spraying it up in the air like that and smelling the opening, because I'm really enjoying this one a lot. It's Y Eau de Parfum Intense. I think this is probably one of the best purchases you can make right now in the Y lineup. Y Eau de Toilette, probably not so much a necessity. And by the way, I just did a whole updated buying guide video on these for more in-depth. You can check that out. I'm not going to go too far. But if the Eau de Parfum and Le Parfum are too sweet, this fixes that. They take out the sweet apple. They really focus on the aromatic notes. You're getting a ton of that ambroxan or amberwood or amber or whatever they listed off as here. You get it for sure, thus kind of moving it into this category, just like Y Eau de Parfum is. The new Elixir is really good too, but it's expensive. It's 60 ml for $180 at retail. I've seen it on discounters for like $120-ish, which is better, but still, when we're talking 60 ml, that's a high price per milliliter. So I think right now, this is just one of the best. It's just a touch over $100 on discounters right now. I think like 102 or something. Has amazing performance, just like the regular EDP. It's just less sweet. It's a little bit more mature, a lot more refined. Beautiful. This is probably the way to go. It really is incredible. And if you haven't tried it yet, do yourself a favor, and if nothing else, go sample it, buy a sample, smell it in store if you can, if you don't want to blind buy. Find some way to at least give it a try. Going back to a cheapie here, since we kind of got derailed a little bit, we have Ferragamo Uomo Urban Feel. So yeah, is this a cheapie? I mean, it's kind of right on the edge. It's $40 or so, maybe $45, so maybe not quite a cheapie, but it's pretty close. I mean, in this day and age, it could almost be considered a cheapie because everything is just going up in price. Ambroxan, bergamot, driftwood, and some nice airy ozonic notes are coming to the surface here. Driftwood, it sounds weird. It sounds like make-believe. You know, I've smelled things like Tom Ford Costa Azzurra, which has a driftwood note, and that's where you pick up on it a lot, and that's kind of where I discovered that note and how it actually smells. It's a very kind of musky, woody smell, if that makes sense. And it's something where it's distinct, and when you pick up on it, you'll pick up on it elsewhere if it's truly there. And you do pick up on it here. It's like a nice, light, woody, musky combination, which also lends to this kind of marine smell. Even if there's not like a water note or an aquatic note, it gives off that impression. Just like violet leaf can kind of give off a watery feel or an aquatic feel. Even if there's no watery or aquatic notes listed off, it just kind of has that type of texture and that feeling. That's kind of what the driftwood is doing here. You get a nice sharp and bright ambroxan along with some of the citrus too, like I had listed off there. It's a really good one that you just don't hear about all that often. You know, the spotlight is on Uomo and Uomo Signature, which both of those are amazing, so I'm not saying that it's not deserving of that. But the two fresh ones, meaning this one and Casual Life, are a little bit more under the radar. They're both affordable, they're both really good, and this is a great blue scent with respectable performance at a great price. Next up we have Aaro Chrome Extreme. Man, we're sticking with some pretty competitive pricing here. $40 to $45. Now, this one kind of smells a lot like Acqua di Gio Profondo. That's kind of why it is so popular, just because that one is very popular in and of itself, but it's, you know, more than double the price. The only difference is going to be, or at least the main difference, is that this doesn't have the same level of the mineral notes that Profondo has. It's very distinct. It's very oceanic. It smells like mineral rocks, like water minerals, which sounds weird, but when you smell Profondo, you immediately pick up on that interesting accord. You can't miss it. I don't care if you're brand new to smelling fragrances. I mean, you're going to notice right away that something's different. This has a little bit of that, but not as much. So that's the main difference. If you really want that true experience, Profondo is going to be the better bet, but it is more expensive. This one does have a nice orange note off the top, a little bit of a fruity kick. You get into some of the C notes and a pretty prominent ambroxan base as the dry down. You know, if this was 70, 80 bucks on discounters, you might as well make the jump up to Profondo for another 30 or maybe even $20, depending on where you're shopping, and just get that one instead. But when this one comes in at around 40, and I think sometimes I've even seen it into the mid 30s, maybe even low 30s, depending on what sales and what prices are going on. At that point, people who are being price conscious would just probably rather go with this if you really want to maximize the amount of fragrances that you can add to your collection for the money. Another affordable one, I think down into the 20s to low 30s, we have Perry Ellis Aqua Extreme. Another one that kind of takes a bit of a Dylan Blue approach a little bit. So it's going to be a sweeter blue scent here. Not quite as much as Dylan Blue, but in that vein. I think for what it's worth, it's really solid. You know, Perry Ellis, they're the kind of the king of cheapies, or at least they have quite a few of them that are pretty good. I'm pretty sure we all remember Perry Ellis 360 Red, which is kind of an Aqua de Joe clone with a pretty prominent cinnamon note. So they kind of can do the freshies pretty well, and this is one that is also heavily inspired by other more popular successful scents. This is another one that is good because of its price. You know, like I said with the Aaro, if this was going for way more, it might not be really making a whole lot of sense, but it comes in at a really low, cheapy price pretty much, worth checking out. It's a good beater scent. You know, if you wanted something that you could throw in your car or throw in your gym bag or book bag, and it's going to be exposed to differing temperatures and you're not too worried about it, but you just want something as a backup in case you forget something or forget to put on a fragrance before you leave, which has happened to all of us. You know, something that cheap would be good to be able to kind of sacrifice. Last up for this video, another cheapie we're going to end it on. Antonio Banderas, the Icon Eau de Toilette. We're up to the Elixir now, which I don't have. I have this one in the EDP. I don't even think I have the Parfum, but I'm pretty sure there's a Parfum, and I think they just came out with an Elixir. I'm a little bit behind on these. I like the Eau de Toilette, and I really like the Eau de Parfum, so 2 for 2. Can't speak on the new ones, but I will get them. This one is going to be a Sauvage clone. I always have to point this out. I'm going to do it. Listen. Hear that click? Such a satisfying, impressive atomizer. Let's do it one more time. Can you hear it? Here's the mic. Listen. Ready? Wow. That sounds like something out of an $80 scent, really, but it's not. That stuff goes for as low as like 20 bucks online. You could get testers and things like that for $19 or something. It's really, really affordable, but it's really good. It's one of the better Sauvage clones out there in this price sector, which is amazing because it's so cheap. Alrighty guys, that's going to do it for me. Some fantastic blue fragrances that they have some power behind them, and they might be overrated and they might be slept on a little bit in comparison to the big ones, so you should check them out. I will link them all down below. I got a mailing list you can sign up to and a texting list. If you want to be notified of when rare, discontinued, hard to find fragrances come into stock, you can sign up down below. Thank you so much for watching. Stay safe, stay healthy. We'll see you tomorrow with another one. Take care.